You're listening to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast, your podcast for escaping life's monotony, indulging in your wildest travel fantasies, and discovering the constant beauty of this ever-changing world.
On today's episode, Kristen and Carol from Where Next podcast join us to share about their travel stories, travel styles, and travel tips.
Welcome to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. We are your navigators, Allison
and Regan. And welcome to another Travel Tuesday, listeners. Thanks for journeying along with us for another Tuesday. We have a couple of really special guests today. Carol and Kristen from Where Next podcast are joining us today for a really great conversation. We are all travel lovers, and so you're going to get some geeking out here, and I hope you're prepared for it. But before we jump into that conversation, just a reminder to head over to our website and check that out, www.wanderlustingwives.com. And there you can find easy links to all of our episodes, more information about us, and feel free to reach out to us. If you want to be a guest on Travel Tuesday, we would love to hear from you. If you have big stories, small stories, stories in between, we'd love to hear from you. Allie, where else can people get in touch with us?
Yeah, feel free to follow us on social media. We are the most up-to-date on Instagram, so you can follow us at Wanderlusting Wives. We also have a Facebook page that's Wanderlusting Wives Podcast, Twitter at Wanderlust Wives, and we also have an email. So feel free to give us some feedback, reach out to us. If you want to be a guest, you can also email us there, and our email is wanderlustingwives@gmail.com.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways to get in touch with us. And what was that thing, Allie, about giving 5-star reviews?
Oh, yes. I forgot. I had to add that too. Make sure to give our podcast 5 stars. We would love your reviews, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to give us a review. We also like to joke that our podcast is the best gift that you could give anyone. It's free. So share it with your friends and family. We would love that.
Yeah, and if you're listening today, you kind of get 2 for the price of 1, which 1 is really free. So you're getting 2 for free because we also have another podcast represented here on our episode today. So we have Carol and Kristen from Where Next podcast. Welcome, Carol and Kristen. And we're really excited to have both of you. So I'd love to get started with just can you tell us a bit about your podcast, maybe how it came to be, and just where it's taken you since its inception?
Sure. I'll start and Carol can add the color. So we started, we've been longtime friends. We actually met in our early mid-20s, I think, in Walnut Creek. We lived in the same apartment complex and worked at the same company. I don't know if we knew beforehand or after or whatever, but 2 different offices. Every Wednesday we'd have dinners with my other roommate and 2 guys. So every 5th week we'd only have to cook. It was amazing. Then she moved away. We had families, kept in touch by Christmas cards. 2020 hit, of course, and her and I got connected on my Christmas card. And so we started talking, catching up, and wanted to, I actually I have a podcast as well, Curiosity with Kristen, and Carol and I connected, and she said, I want to do a podcast on travel and living anywhere in the world. Of course, we're in COVID, so of course, we dreamed big and wanted to. Our kids are towards the end of high school now in college. 2 of them are in college now. So this is kind of a bucket list of great places to check out and see from the perspective of people who live and or work anywhere in the world, or they spend significant time, or they're from that country. And then they share stories of not only just I'm going to France and seeing the Eiffel Tower. It's really about living there and the culture and the people and how it is, and just little extra things that you wouldn't necessarily hear or learn that or you could Google and find out things, but this is kind of different. It's from a unique perspective. So even some countries we've done, or some places we've done duplicates because there's just an extra flavor to it. But we've been doing this we just had our 2-year anniversary live, and we've done it longer than that. So it's just been a blast. We really look forward to it. And it's been great to just also have that relationship back with Carol.
Yes. And yeah, I love doing this podcast. But Kristen is a great partner, really good ideas. And it's so funny because I feel like I've learned so much about so many different countries. And again, the one of the drivers was like, I really want to know the truth. Like, is this place great? But what's the downfall of, like, Spain looks amazing, but I've learned now I don't want to go there in July and August because a lot of places don't have air conditioning, and so certain things. And I don't think there's one perfect place in this world. But as we become empty nesters, I do want to spend months in different countries, and so I'd like to do that. Um, just go work there. And I'm really a big believer in having the life that you want, and not everyone can travel, and not everyone can travel and work. So, but I'm kind of convinced now that there's not like, there's not one perfect place in the world. I feel like there's good times to go to different places. So that's one of my drivers. Is like, I want to get to the bottom. Where should I go when? And how do I should go to the shoulder season to get the best value and have the least crowds, but have the best experience? So don't want to totally go off season and it's raining every day or something like that. So
Yeah, the last episode of yours that I listened to was your latest Bali episode. And just I'm getting a taste of like exactly what you're saying too, of like really digging into like, okay, if you were to live here, where would be those places you'd want to live versus like when you go there as a tourist? Like it's a different vibe. Totally. I totally see what you're saying there. Yeah.
I
That's
think the
awesome.
neat part has been also is just I know we have our I'm just calling it a bucket list, but interest of where to go and what to do. And we're both pretty outdoorsy as well. So we kind of tailor a little bit of our conversations to that side. But it's been fun to where now we could go anywhere and have pretty much some friends already built into wherever we go, to all the different places. And I even last summer took my kids to South Korea, and then we went to Bali, and stayed actually with one of the gals that was on a podcast. Actually, how I met her, my daughter, she's a big BTS fan. COVID, I was taking her to a concert. It got canceled. And so I told her, hey, instead, why don't I take you to South Korea when you graduate high school? And so that was kind of how it started. And then we ended up during one of our podcast episodes did one on South Korea from a good friend of mine. His sister-in-law lives there. And so when we when I was buying the tickets, getting all the arrangements. And so I pinged her and I'm like, hey, I'm going out there. I'd love to meet you. And she's like, two things. First off, stay with me. Secondly, you have to go to Bali and surf, since I'm a surfer, as you see all those surfboards. I do wake surfing behind boats, but I can also ocean surf. So she hooked us up with a Rip Curl Pro and his family, and we flew to Bali from South Korea and ended up surfing. He taught my kids how to surf, and so I got to, and then I do events also for wake surfing. So I got through my Nautique connection, um, got to wake surf on a private wake surf club in South Korea, and then fly over to Bali and ocean surf with the Rip Curl Pro family. And then they actually had a wakes or an ocean surf contest the day I came, and it was really neat because I do wake surf contests here in California. So it just hit so many bucket lists, and it was one of the most memorable trips of my life. And I would not have done that had I not, been in this podcast. And so it's been, there's many more to come. For
Yeah.
sure.
Wow. That's
I'm
incredible.
yeah, I'm amazed by that.
Yeah.
Really cool.
That's fantastic. So I feel us getting into that travel portion of this conversation, and I'm so excited to get there, but I do want to give you an opportunity to plug away for your podcast of like where anybody can find your podcast, social media, just anything. Share it with us and
I,
our listeners.
I'll take that one. Yeah. So we're pretty active on Instagram at Where Next Podcast. And we just have the Buzzsprout website. We're on Buzzsprout, but we're on all the, podcast channels. So just Google Where Next Travel Podcast and you'll find us, definitely on Apple. And please do subscribe. It's really helpful. And, if you do like it, 5-star rating. And also, I just wanted to mention I'm very passionate about travel and work. So really wanted to have like work-life travel balance. And so my work is I'm a Salesforce consultant, which is a job you can really do from anywhere. part of what we do is a marketing automation platform. And so we do emails, and it's all online web-based software, and then talking to clients on Zoom all day. And so one of my passions is to like help people become their own freelancer if they want to, how to get started. And so I have an Instagram called Carol freelance underscore life. So you can look for that as well if you want some help in making sure that you have a lifestyle that will allow you to travel if you wish, to be able to work remote, because there are so many ways to do that. And the more I'm active in this, the more I'm like, wow, there are so many jobs. So
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Creating that life you want. That's like we're only here for so long. Why waste a moment in something that's not fulfilling if we're able to do something else. Yeah. Well, Allie, you want to kick us into our travel conversation? I like feel like this is just going to be so natural. I'm really excited.
Yeah, so we've touched a little bit on Kristen's travels, but maybe you can each go back and forth and share like your top three destinations that you've been to, and then maybe three that you're hoping to go to, whether that be you two together or separately. What would you say are like three places that are your favorite, and then three that you are hoping to go to someday?
well, it's interesting. So I lived in Hawaii for a little bit, and that's where this whole like I really need to live somewhere to experience, because everyone's like, "Oh, Hawaii's so expensive," and it is. But I live there, and you just make it work. Some cost of living stuff. No jackets, no heat, etc. Can
Mhm.
make it affordable. And so I'd say Hawaii is still like one of the most amazing places in the world for sure. And been to Europe. Italy's very amazing. I did a backpacking trip in my late 20s where I got the URL pass and traveled to like probably 8 different countries and stayed at youth hostels and did some hiking. It was very, very rewarding. And the one thing is kind of interesting, like each European town kind of starts to seem the same. There's all the cathedrals, and then there's the metro station you need to figure out. And that was really just a quick place at each, quick stop at each one. Probably no more than a week in any location. But I haven't been to Portugal yet. That is big time on my target list. And I've been to Greece just briefly. It was definitely pre-season, so it was pretty chilly. And I was just listening to a YouTuber. I think his name is actually Gabriel Travels on YouTube. He just said why Greece is his favorite country in the world. And this guy's an avid world traveler. And it sounds perfect. I'm like, okay, I need to get back to Greece and really enjoy it. But go to those islands that aren't so popular, right? Not Santorini
Mm-hmm.
or Corfu, Athens and all that. You need to see that once. But there's like 40 or 60 islands in Greece. And so it sounds like California climate, inexpensive, very outdoorsy, and not a lot of bugs or things that can hurt you. So Greece
I
sounds
like that.
amazing.
Yeah, me too.
And Philippines kind of sounds like, to me, it's like Hawaii at Mexico pricing, so it's like beautiful beaches. Maybe well, no, actually, a lot of people in the Philippines speak English. So that's what we're learning a lot also from our podcast. And then I've gone down to New Zealand for that was just like a quick trip for 10 days. That was a long, long time ago. When I was living in Hawaii, so it wasn't too hard to get there. But if you're into adventure, 100% New Zealand is so cool. Like we went horseback riding, skydiving, bungee jumping, whitewater rafting, like all within 9 days. And horseback riding, sailboat. There was no work in that trip at all. That was just literally play, play, play every day. But that was
That sounds like my kind of trip. All of
yeah,
those things. Maybe not the bungee jumping. That would be like a last minute call, but all the rest of it, that sounds incredible. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
right. It is so funny. A lot of them they didn't even have waivers. I'm like, where am I supposed to sign the waiver? Like, you hurt yourself, it's your problem. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Wow.
So not like all this, insurance scare like we have here in the United States.
Hmm.
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting.
And also, it's interesting during COVID. And also, like once you had a family, when the kids are small, I just didn't have nearly as much energy, right? Because I was working and like constantly running the kids around, and you're like exhausted all the time. And for a while there, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to travel anymore. And so that's when I'm like, let me just let's explore coast to home camping. I really enjoy camping, and then just touring around Colorado. Like Colorado has so
Mm.
much to see. We have the Great Sand Dunes Park. We've got Mesa Verde, where there's like cave dwellings. That's down in the southwestern part of the state. So many places. Mountain towns, etc. Rocky Mountain National Park. Just go on. Yeah, and even
Yeah.
I've just learned there's like a Buddhist temple that I saw, maybe on Instagram or something. Like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, that was in Colorado. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So there's so much to see in the United States. Like I have a gal that I work with. She lives in Mississippi, and so I'm hearing about all the pros and cons of Mississippi. And certain times of year, it seems like an amazing place to go. So, and
Mm.
of course, Florida is great. Except in maybe July and August, but for the
I'm
most part.
avoiding those skillfully. Colorado, though, I have to say, if I had to pick a state, I think I've been to maybe 42 states at this point. Definitely want to get to all 50, but like Colorado is my favorite. I'm pretty
Oh,
confident
really?
in saying that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
torn because I lived 11 years in, no, probably, no, 12 and a half years in California, Southern Cal, and Northern Cal. And I just really miss the ocean. Yeah. So, and I don't like
Mm.
winter. So I'm like, but they both are so incredible. But the main difference is that Colorado is just not nearly as populated. I just went
Mm.
out there to California recently, and in Los Angeles, the traffic, it was just 2 miles, 20 minutes. Like
Mm,
one
yeah.
person through each red light, like, what's going on? And then Colorado, like anywhere you go, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's just so easy. Oh yeah. And then also, yeah, so Greece, and then Japan, we just interviewed another gal from Japan that'll come out probably in September. That sounds like the most perfect place on the earth. Like it's like the people sound so incredible, and the culture, and just kind of like the spirit of the place just sounds
Mm.
so heavenly,
Mhm.
and it looks beautiful as well. And so there's so much. There's the people, there's the culture, there's the vibe, there's the beauty, there's the activity, there's the weather. There's so much to consider in traveling, right? So
Yeah.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. The entire web becomes listenable for the first time, all in one place. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling and start listening. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, tech, business, science, Bitcoin, or even the Kardashians. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. And the best part, they have podcasts. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. You can even find us there. I started using it as my default podcast app. They even have a digital radio. Download and use Newsly for free now at www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use promo code WIVES. That's WIVES. And you can get a 1-month free premium subscription. You can find all this information in our description from this episode. And now back to our episode.
What's your favorite way to travel? Like, and this can be a question for both of you also. And Kristen, I definitely want to get to like your top three and all of
what's your
that too. Um, like solo travel, family travel, travel with friends, like backpacking, resort. Like what is like your ideal setting and group to be with? Or is it just like I'll take anything?
All of it. I don't know. For me, I can do all of it. I love family, friends, solo. What was the fourth thing? I can't remember.
I don't even know. It was just like whatever was coming to my brain.
I like them all for all various reasons. But if I can't find someone, it doesn't stop me personally. I'll go. I still just like I went to Costa Rica. This was back in 2002 before kids, but I went. No one. I couldn't find anyone, so I had an enormous amount of vacation at my company, and I just said, okay, just bought my ticket, and I went, and it was pretty amazing. I went for a month, and it was incredible because um, like commissioned. And so I was like, oh shoot, I had just a ton of vacation. And so I ended up, North Face was my client, and they're like, do you have gear? Nope. Okay, come. I knew the controller, so she's like, pick me up. Let's go to lunch and I'll take you to the outlet and buy whatever you want with my discount, which was amazing. And I still use, got the backpack right here packed for my, I'm leaving on Thursday for 10 days in the backcountry with taking Girl Scouts
Nice.
but yeah, I just, I
Nice.
can do it all. I love being alone and being with friends and family and new people. And it's interesting because I would say when I'm solo, I just meet tons of people. And even if I'm backpacking, I've done that too once so far last summer, just a really short weekend. You meet people on the trail and everyone's so nice. And it's never stopped me.
It is interesting. And I don't know if you found this too. It sounds like maybe you have. Like, people in nature just tend to be happier.
And
Like,
traveling too. Even
yeah,
Mhm.
the nature thing for
yeah.
sure. When they're in the backcountry, I there was one guy I ran into and he was on this kind of vista. I went and looked and I said hi and he didn't say hi and I just figured he needed his space and then that was it. That's the only person I've not had a conversation with. But I just figure, okay, we're all out here enjoying and having our own time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, everyone in nature tends that I've come across has been nice. I have heard of the other stories. I've read some books, so I've seen that. But so far, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, I would say I kind of like all of them as well. I mean, I guess the one thing I like slower travel. So,
Mm.
if someone's like, "Oh, let's go to these 4 countries in 2 weeks," I'm not a big fan of that just because I don't feel like I can really absorb it. And I do really like this is probably me just being, somewhat self-centered. I like that alone travel sometimes because then I can just choose whatever I want without, trying to convince everyone to do my way or end up doing something for other people. Like I'm not a huge museum person. I know a lot of people love to go to art museums and science museums. It just makes me so tired. I'd rather just like go to the park and play tennis at that city or something. Um,
That's why we get along so well.
but I would say like family travel is really nice, especially like places that I've been. So I'm like so excited. Like we went to Hawaii to like share with my kids, like, here's what I did when I was younger, or we were in Santa Monica with my daughter and there's people rollerblading. She's like, "Oh, that probably was like you." I'm like, "Yeah, that's totally like this is where I lived when I lived here, and we would go down the Strand and rollerblade." And she's like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" So that's like really fun. Part of it's just kind of going down memory lane as well. Um,
Mhm.
but I do like to plan, like have a lot of options when we go somewhere, but then not be too attached if we don't get them all done. I can't stand when you go somewhere and like, oh, what should we do today? I don't know. What do you want to do today? I don't know. What do you want to do today? And that just
Yeah.
like, oh, like I just can't stand wasting time. I'm like, no, so like let's come up with 12 different things and then we'll see what the weather, has in store for us and that'll help us decide kind of like what to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I have never done anything other than I mean, travel with my husband and travel with the family. Never done solo travel. Even Allie and I like we're getting there. We're getting there. We will do a trip together, but like I definitely want to get to the point where like it sounds like both of you have had experience in a lot of different types of travel. So that's really awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carol and I still need to have a trip together.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we're not alone, Allie.
Yeah, good.
All 4 of us. Yes.
Yeah, let's
The
Yes.
go.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm not a museum person either, so
Me either, so we're good.
amazing.
Wow.
So we are kind of getting towards the end, but I definitely want to give Kristen, I want to hear just like your top 3 destinations that you've been to or that you might recommend, and then like 3 maybe that you haven't been that you are just dying to get to.
Yeah. I always, of course, I am in California, and the first place, my number one place that I go multiple times a year is Yosemite. It's just, it's kind of an
Mm,
easy one, but I backpack there once a year. I go there in January to hike. It's majestic. It's just awe-inspiring. So I guess I'd say Yosemite, although it is one of the first things that popped up. I have a condo in Maui. I've owned it 17 years, and I've only spent 2 weeks there. I rent it out long term. But I happened to
oh,
go in February and it was humpback whale season, and I had no clue. I just went there in February and was just sort of sitting on the beach with a friend who came. Her and I were just talking, and on the beach, I saw this huge whale jump out, and I was like, what's going on? I didn't know. They call it whale
Surreal. Oh my god.
and they call it whale soup. They say it's their nursery and their nightclub. So they are making babies and having babies there. So it's a very there's no predators. It's warm waters, and it's just they're every thousands. I mean, 20. I don't know how many. 20,000. There's so many.
Oh
It's
my.
incredible, and they were all breaching, jumping out of the water this time. So that was, I highly recommend Maui. And then just, Costa Rica, I always have to mention that. That's still, I need to get back to Costa Rica. But then the two, there's so many, so I'm trying to keep it to three. Bali, I did not get enough time in last summer. I definitely needed to go back there. And there's, so those are the places I've been that I would recommend. And then there's so many. I did a short list. I just wrote the top three in Portugal. I would definitely now want to go. And it's funny because it was more. I know Carol always said Portugal, and then I started watching. What is it? This
The 100-foot wave.
100-foot wave, and I was like, oh wow, not like I'll surf there or anything. I just thought, wow, that's incredible. And then there's just so much. There was so many amazing things in Portugal to see and do on the coast and just everywhere. Um, so I'm just sort of inspired. And then there was an Ecuador. Never thought Ecuador, but there was this guy Ruben we interviewed that I met through work, and the amount, right? It's the Galapagos Islands, right? And then there's like the mountain peaks are where people train for Mount Everest. Didn't know that because they have so many over 14ers. I didn't realize that, and there's all these volcanoes. It just looked majestic to all the things you could see. And then Patagonia, I've always wanted to go to Patagonia. We haven't done Patagonia
Hmm.
yet, but that is definitely one. And then when you said Japan, I circled that because there's a ton of wake surfing there, and it's like super tropical too. And of course, they have snow and skiing, and just it was the podcast we did was incredible. So that would be my fourth if I could slip it in.
Yeah, honorable mention, sure. You
Yeah.
you get it. We'll allow it.
So where's your best place? Where's your two ideal places that you would like to go to?
This is always like the worst question, so I sorry we put it on you guys too. But it's always like there's so many places. Like, how do you choose? But a big one for me is actually Bali. My husband and I both want to go there. So we're hoping we got married during COVID, so no honeymoon for us. So we're hoping like our 5-year anniversary do something big, and maybe Bali will be the place that we go. But Bali just seems amazing. And from my understanding, it's expensive to get there, but once you're there, it's so cheap and there's so many amazing experiences that you can have there.
Yeah, and I just watched a movie, Ticket to Paradise. Have you seen that? It's with
Yes.
George Clooney and Julia Roberts. They're in Bali, so that just like it's going to get you really even more excited to go.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we accidentally our plane tickets got canceled and I had to redo it. So our trip got cut short by like half, but I still was going to go because I wanted to go to the Rip Curl Pros and have fun. And then our hotel got dropped that I found out the day
Oh
before.
no.
When I flew there and we got there at 2 a.m. and then like 10 a.m. when we woke up, I was just calling, and Australia was having a pretty deep winter. And so I couldn't get anyone on the phone and I couldn't find any place. And so, my girlfriend in South Korea, who I was like, where do I go? And they were helping me as well. And she said Mubali. So I called, finally got someone on the phone after a while, and they said, would you be willing to share a share? Maybe she just said share. And I said, yes, that's fine. I mean, we're just sleeping and we're going to be out and about, so who cares? And then I was going to the surf contest that day, so I didn't get to the Mubali, so it's MU Bali, until I don't know, like 9 and 10 o'clock at night. It was pretty late. And so you're driving down these dirt roads. It looks like Mexico, which because Southern California folks, we go to Mexico, and you're driving down these dirt roads. You see this wooden gate, and they roll it out, and there's a security guard there, and he's like, "Oh, okay, here's your room right here." And so me and my kids grab our stuff, and we open this non-assuming door to what looked like a compound of beautifulness, like the Kardashians would stay there. And it was two separate buildings. And we were in a unit in one building, and there was one gal in the other. And it had this beautiful pool down the middle with a bridge over it, and this like other thing. And then you open it, and it opens up into this kind of like uh, uh, house that's only one sided, with it's open to the whole compound, with a thatched roof,
Wow.
an open air kitchen, open air living room, dining room, everything for you guys to share. And then you have all the people sleeping in the buildings. And my kids screamed, and they were running around and grabbing phones and taking pictures, and it was incredible. I had no idea. And the food was incredible. It's owned by this French guy who's had it for 25 years. They have this infinity pool. It's kind of up on a cliff, and you see these just perfect, beautiful ocean waves for all these
Ugh.
surfers. Um, the weather was amazing. Everything. It was breathtaking. And we, so we had our own pool, and then we could go to the infinity pool, and then we could hike down pretty steep cliff kind of ish thing. And it's safe. It's not dangerous, to the beach. And you pass by all these other resorts as you're going down to the beach. But highly recommend Mubali, and I'm hoping to get back there as well.
Yeah, I don't know why we would even think about another location. That sounds amazing.
Too short. It was, we were
Yeah.
literally, I was like, kids, do you want to go and see another temple? Because we just did one day at temples, and we went everywhere. Or do you want to just sit here and enjoy our pool? And they said, yeah, let's sit here and enjoy our pool.
Yeah, the beauty. Oh my gosh. It sounds like I just woke up from a dream after hearing that. Like, wow. Allie, are
Yeah.
you ready to pack your bags?
Always.
That's something we like say very frequently on our podcast as we listen to other people talk about the amazing things they've experienced. And we're ready to pack our bags. So, thank you both so much for sharing so much and sharing this conversation with us and about your podcast and everything. And, Allie, is there anything else before we wrap up for today?
I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time. Also, make sure you check out Kristen and Carol's podcast. Follow them on social media. They're awesome, and their guests have great stories as well. So check them out. I'm sure they would appreciate that. And that's about it. Thanks so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you. Talk to you again
Thank
soon.
you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. Come escape with us again every other Tuesday for Travel Tuesdays and every other Wednesday for Wildcard Wednesdays.
Don't forget to give us a subscribe and a follow on all of our social media and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time, wander on.